say that again though, because that
Yeah.
just
I'll say it again.
sounds what?
Gyllenhaal enters a virtual world created from victims' memories in order to find the bomber of a commuter train. It's a little thin, right? A
That's
little
great.
bit.
Like,
Yeah.
where? How in the
Yeah.
world can you conceptualize? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so is Tom Cruise getting alien blood on him, which causes him to now loop the day, you know.
With
But
aliens.
yeah, yeah. But
That's
it's aliens.
that's the exception.
Will and I are going to be discussing our top 5 time loop movies of all time. Now, what is a time loop movie? I'm sure you're asking. So, we had to develop a set of rules and laws that I think differentiate a time loop movie from a time travel movie. So, here's kind of what we laid down. A time loop movie centers around a premise where the day, the week, or any set amount of time repeats over and over and over again until the protagonist is able to get out. So, with those guidelines set, there is a smaller list of movies that I think qualify. And these are films like, Happy Death Day, Edge of Tomorrow, Palm Springs, Source Code, to name a few. There are a lot more titles, and there are, of course, TV shows that deal with this genre. I believe Russian Doll is one of them, but we're limiting this list to movies. So with that being said, I think we should go right into it. My number 5 favorite time loop movie of all time is Happy Death Day. So I love the horror movie take on the time loop drama. We've seen in movies before this that if you die, the day resets. But what if when you die, the whole point is that you're stuck in the loop until you find your killer? It's a great premise, and this is a star-making performance from Jessica Roth, who is in pretty much every scene of the movie. Really, really good. I also like Happy Death Day to You, the sequel, but it wasn't as good as the original. So that is my number 5. What is your number 5, Will? Really?
Check that out.
Oh,
Yeah,
check it out. It's fun. It's
What
really
year
good.
is that film?
I think it came out like 3 years ago. And then the
it's
sequel
recent.
came out last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought
it's a
it was gonna be
Blumhouse
like
movie.
Oh, I totally thought it was gonna be like an '80s film or something.
Oh, no. All right, what's your number 5, Will?
My number 5 is Groundhog Day, and as I said, I saw this film for the first time a couple of days ago, and I have to say, this must be the film that started it all.
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the '80s or '90s that this film was made?
Early 90s.
Early '90s, yeah. It literally was the inspiration of Palm Springs, and how Bill Murray takes advantage of his situation in every manner, but then learns so much more about himself and the life he leads. He changes into becoming a better man, a better Samaritan, and the comedy that was just classic Bill Murray.
So your number 5 is my number 4.
Oh.
So yeah, I think we agree. This is the movie that started it all. There may have been like certain days or certain movies or TV shows, maybe a Twilight Zone episode, who knows, in which a day repeats. But I think this is the movie that inspired every movie that came after it.
Yeah.
Having rewatched it like you, I rewatched it on Netflix this past week. But watching it in 2020, it feels very different than when I first saw it. I don't think the first half of the movie, Call Me Crazy, holds up as well in the post-Me Too movement world that we're living in. If you think about it, he is trying to sleep with his producer, and he's trying to basically learn details to sleep with women while he's stuck in a time loop. So I'm just like, this is a little sensitive right now, I would have to say. But when Bill Murray's character Phil realizes that, I need to be a better man, I need to, I have this gift to help people, right? The movie gets, I would almost say, sentimental and emotional, and you really start to care for him, and he starts to change. He starts to make the most of his time, saving lives, learning how to play the piano. And I think that is where it becomes a classic Bill Murray funny movie. And he's really comic genius throughout, but I would say more specifically in the last 30 to 40 minutes. All right, so that was my number 4. What's your number 4 film?
My number 4 is Palm Springs, and it's basically an adaptation to Groundhog Day, obviously with certain degrees of changes. And the only reason why is because I mean, it's just, I guess, more up to date with the comedy in the sense. Not that I have no discredit to the comedy that's in Groundhog Day, but
of course.
nevertheless fun and enjoyable to watch. Like, it could literally, Palm Springs can literally be called Wedding Day if that was the case. It basically had the same antics, but like I said, the plot twist with the characters, it really bumped it up for me to put it at number 4. So
Cool.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I left that movie off my list simply because it's kind of what inspired us to rank these movies to begin with. But yeah, I don't know where I would have put Palm Springs if I had put that on this list, but it would have made the list for sure. But
Number
yeah, it's
six,
cool.
probably a
Yeah, I'm
top
glad to see
six.
that I'm glad to see that made your list.
Yeah.
So on to our number threes. I think you might have had this higher on your list, Will, but my number three film is Edge of Tomorrow, and I think they changed the name later to Live, Die, Repeat, or Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
So Live Die
They changed
Repeat
the name
is the
multiple
original.
times.
Well, Live Die Repeat is the original
No, it
Japanese
was
name,
it was
isn't it?
Edge of Tomorrow, and then they changed it to I think Live Die Repeat, but people were like confusing. So then when it came out on Blu-ray, they finally changed it again to Live Die Repeat Edge of Tomorrow.
Got it.
All right, so whoever's in charge of marketing needs to like I
They're
don't know.
confusing themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, this was, in my opinion, not the first, but this is an action movie version of Groundhog Day. I think Source Code came before this, but this one caught me off guard in that I was expecting another like typical Tom Cruise action movie where he starts out as the cocky, cool super stud that has to change. But here, that element is ever so slightly knocked on its head in that Cruise plays someone that's never been on a battlefield before and is a total fish out of water and has to learn to fight and has to grow in that way.
Yeah.
So this movie is legitimately funny, and I wasn't expecting that. And I thought Bill Paxton was really, really good in this. And of course, we were introduced to action hero Emily Blunt, and she is badass in this
great.
movie. Yeah,
Really good.
So I think the plot point in which they say how Cruise is able to repeat the day, it revolves around aliens. It's a little thin, but so is the whole premise of a time loop movie.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny though, that because so you have that at number. I think we did a little switch though, because Edge of Tomorrow was my number.
Switcheroo.
Yeah. So my Edge of Tomorrow was number two.
Yeah.
And everything that you said was basically spot on. I thought the concept was great and action pack and a better than acceptable story in my opinion, because there's aliens involved. But for my number three, which I think is your number two, is Source Code. So my number three is Source Code because it's definitely a trip, and I would just a mental trip, and I would kind of consider that film more of like a mind loop than anything.
Yeah.
And the technology created to build this story is a bit of a stretch in my opinion, but in the same way, yeah.
But we're talking about time loops, so
I know, yeah, I know, but nevertheless, it's an interesting concept.
But for me, I picked Source Code as something higher on the list than Edge of Tomorrow, simply because I think it deals with higher overarching themes that affect all of us. It's a little more philosophical, I would say. So this movie really feels like it was based more on a Philip K. Dick novel, the man that wrote the stories for Blade Runner as well as Minority Report, and that it talks about, like I said, themes that kind of transcend the science fiction genre. Honestly, the idea of Gyllenhaal entering a virtual world created from victims' memories in order to find the bomber of a train, that's thin, but it's okay because it's just the premise that we start from. It's the springboard.
Say that again, though, because that just...
Yeah. I'll say it again.
Sounds... What?
Gyllenhaal enters a virtual world created from victims' memories in order to find the bomber of a commuter train. It's a little thin, right?
That's
a little
great.
bit.
Like, where? How in the world can you conceptualize? That's crazy. Yeah.
But so is Tom Cruise getting alien blood on him, which causes him to now loop the day.
What's aliens?
But
that's
it's aliens.
that's the exception.
That's the caveat.
Yes.
Anyway. But for Source Code, it's the premise we start from, and the rest of the movie is really soundly crafted. I love the end of the film, which hints at an alternate timeline being created from a simulation because of what Gyllenhaal's character was able to do in the movie. And it begs the question, what is reality to us? Isn't it just whatever our brain tells us is going on? And in that way, maybe it's a little similar to The Matrix.
Yes.
Right? Is that
exactly
air
what
breathing?
Yes, exactly what I was thinking. Yep.
Yeah. But I always love when a movie reaches for something more, which is why I love the film like Interstellar so much, which is, I'm sure, a film that we'll talk about when we discuss Nolan's top 5. But that was my number 2. So I think we've covered all of our lists so far, down to our number 1 films. Why don't you go ahead and go first, Will?
Number 1, I had to pick Doctor Strange. Dude, one of my favorite Marvel films. Taking this story that doesn't involve science or super soldiers, but like sorcery and magic, basically Harry Potter on steroids, right? And this is a film you just you have to accept it. It's obviously it goes beyond any logic, but it's a superhero film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the awesome multiverse and visual effects with the hand gestures to go from one point to another, and the awesome Infinity Stone that bends. Yes, dude. Yeah, have you seen the behind the scenes for that when you see Benedict coming back to actually doing it, but there's no visual effects. It's
Yeah.
just it's funny, but it's really cool, like how in it he's in it.
The end of the film is basically Doctor Strange just like making Dormammu lose his patience, right? For having to repeat the same thing, the same scene over and over and over again. I thought that was pretty.
It
And I like
so
how they
good.
played it for laughs, actually.
Yeah.
He made the bad guy impatient. That's how he won. And I thought that was really, really clever.
I mean,
actually.
but if I go back to Edge of Tomorrow though too, it's like every time Cruz kept dying, I mean, really that editing where you just see him like boom, 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 like same
Yeah.
scene, it gets comedic. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like
And
it's
it
just
should,
so
and it's
funny.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
so great. You know.
Yeah.
But
All right. So
Yeah.
this is maybe a little bit of a stretch. Is this an actual time loop movie? Scientifically speaking, no. But to the main character, he is stuck in his own time loop. So it's one of those things where it's like the judge says, I'll allow it. But I don't know. I don't know what you think. But I picked Memento as my number one time loop movie of all time. This movie is a freaking head trip. And the reason why I think it's a time loop movie is because our main character, Leonard, played by Guy Pearce, has interrogate amnesia, which means he can't form new memories, which means that he is living the same segment of time over and over and over and over again. And in order, he's trying to basically find the man who raped and murdered his wife. And because he keeps forgetting, he starts tattooing evidence and names and details onto his body so that he can at least remember those things. Yeah, the structure of the movie is unique, really unique.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it, and it just works so perfectly. I'm not going to try to explain it other than there are sections of the movie that basically happen forward in time and certain scenes of the movie that happen backward in time. And at the climax, those two sections, they meet to reveal something startling about our main character.
Yes.
So that's all I will say about that. But I really feel like Nolan is making a bold statement about how human beings deal with trauma. And I will not give anything away. I will not give any more away than that. So you have to watch the movie. All right, that was a look at our top 5 time loop movies of all time. Any suggestions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And make sure to like our page and subscribe if you like what you're hearing. We're going to be coming at you with a lot more content very, very soon.